the tiny crowned soul who fell for a human warrior. Lyra knew this before she even opened her eyes. The moment she woke, she felt the cold pull of space pressing against the thin walls of the escape pod. Lights blinked weakly around her, dim and tired, like they were about to give up. The pod trembled, spinning slowly, and every movement made her tiny body feel even smaller than it already was. She reached up and touched the crown resting above her head. It was alive. The crown glowed softly, no larger than a ring of light, floating just above her silver hair. It was warm, steady, and familiar. It had been with her since birth. It was not made of metal or stone. It was made of memory, duty, and power. Lyra was the last crowned soul of her people. Her species had once lived between stars, in cities no larger than mountains but full of knowledge older than most civilizations. They were small in size, rarely taller than a human hand, but their minds could touch energy, thought, and time in quiet ways. They ruled nothing by force. That was why they were gone. A warning tone echoed through the pod. The sound was sharp and urgent. Lyra's eyes widened as she floated upright, gripping the strap with both hands. The pod was losing control. Outside the small viewing screen, space twisted. A blue planet filled the view, growing larger by the second. Its surface was scarred, covered in dark burns and broken clouds. Orbiting ships fired bright lines of light at one another. Explosions bloomed like silent flowers. A battle. Lyra felt fear tighten in her chest. Her people avoided battles. They avoided loud species. They avoided humans most of all. But fate did not ask for permission. The pod shook violently. A blast nearby sent it spinning faster. Sparks burst from the panel, and the gravity control failed completely. Lyra screamed as the pod was pulled toward the planet. She hugged her knees close, the crown brightening as it tried to shield her. Energy wrapped around her body, thin but strong. The pod screamed as it hit the atmosphere. Fire covered the screen. The shaking became unbearable. Then, everything went dark. When Lyra woke again, she was lying on cold ground. The pod was broken open, half buried in dirt and black stone. Smoke drifted into the air. The sky above was gray, heavy, and filled with distant thunder. She pushed herself up slowly, dizzy and weak. The crown flickered, but stayed whole. She was alive. That alone felt strange. Lyra stepped out of the pod and looked around. She was in a wide, empty valley. Tall rocks stood like broken teeth around her. In the distance, she could hear the echo of weapons and engines. The battle had followed her to the ground. She hid quickly, moving behind a large stone. Her body blended well with shadows. She slowed her breathing and reached out with her mind. Enemy scanners swept the area. Cold signals brushed against her thoughts. Searching. Hungry, the hunters had not given up. They never did. To them, she was not a person. She was a prize. Lyra stayed perfectly still. Then something unexpected happened. A loud crack echoed through the valley. Not from the sky, from nearby. She turned her head carefully and peered around the stone. A human stood less than 50 steps away. He was tall, even by human standards, wearing heavy armor scratched and burned from battle. One side of his helmet was missing, revealing a hard face marked with dirt and blood. His dark eyes were focused, sharp, and alive. He held a weapon that looked old and damaged, but he stood like it was enough. 3 alien soldiers rushed toward him from the rocks. They were larger than the human, with long limbs and glowing weapons. Any one of them should have been able to kill him easily. But they did not. The human moved first. He rolled to the side as energy fire cut through the air where he had been. He came up fast, firing back with perfect timing. One alien fell, its weapon dropping uselessly to the ground. The second charged. The human met it head-on. They collided hard. The human's armor cracked, but he did not stop. He drove forward with raw strength, pushing the alien back until it stumbled. Then he finished it with a single close shot. The third alien hesitated. That moment of fear was all the human needed. The fight was over. Lyra stared, stunned. Humans were not supposed to be like this. They were chaotic, loud, emotional, weak, alone. That was what the old record said. But the human did not kneel. He did not celebrate. He simply breathed hard, checked his weapon, and scanned the valley like he expected more enemies. The crown above Lyra's head pulsed. Once, twice, she gasped quietly, pressing a hand to her chest. The crown was reacting. It had never reacted to another species before. The human turned suddenly, his eyes narrowing as he looked straight at her hiding place. Lyra froze. Had he sensed her? Slowly, carefully, the human stepped closer, weapon raised. His boots crunched against stone and dirt. Each step made Lyra's heart race faster. She knew she should run, but she did not. When he was close enough, Lyra stepped out from behind the stone. The human stopped instantly. His eyes widened. "What in the stars?" he whispered. Lyra stood very still, raising both hands to show she was not a threat. Compared to him, she looked like a child made of light and shadow. Her simple robe was torn from the crash. The crown glowed faintly above her head. They stared at each other. The valley went quiet. Then distant engines roared again, breaking the moment. The human cursed under his breath. "More coming," he said, though Lyra did not understand his words. His tone was clear enough. He looked at her again, jaw tight, thinking fast. Then, without asking, he reached down and opened a small compartment on his armor. He pulled out a metal case and held it open. "Hide," he said, pointing inside. Lyra hesitated. Trusting a human went against everything she had been taught, but the scanners were closer now. She could feel them. She nodded and flew into the case just as he closed it gently. Darkness surrounded her, but it was not frightening. Dinah! She felt movement as he ran. Blasts shook the ground nearby. The human moved fast, breathing hard, dodging fire. At one point he fell, rolling hard, protecting the case with his body. Lyra felt the impact and cried out softly. The crown flared bright. Energy spread through the case, through the human's armor, into his body. He froze mid-step. His breath steadied. Pain dulled. Strength filled him like fire. He did not understand why. He only knew he could keep going. The human reached a narrow cave hidden between rocks and dove inside. He sealed the entrance with debris and dropped to one knee, breathing hard. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then he opened the case slowly. Lyra floated up, eyes wide. "You're real," he said quietly. She studied his face. There was fear there, and wonder, and something else. Care. She touched the crown again. For the first time in her long life, Lyra felt something new. Hope. Outside the cave, enemy voices echoed as scanners searched again. Inside, a tiny crowned soul and a human warrior waited together, unaware that the galaxy had already changed. Lyra pressed herself against the smooth wall of the cave, heart racing. The human warrior Rook crouched beside her, breathing slowly, but his hands did not relax. He checked the makeshift barricade again and again, as if expecting the walls themselves to attack him. For Lyra, this closeness was strange. She had spent centuries in silence and careful observation. She had avoided others, small as she was, trusting no one. Yet here, beside a human larger than her entire body, she felt the crown stir with warmth, and not from danger.
"We cannot stay here long," Rook said, his voice low, steady, yet rough from shouting and fighting.
"They'll find us if we wait." Lyra nodded, her small hands clutching the crown. She wanted to speak, but her voice came out as a whisper. "They want me." Rook looked at her sharply.
"Who? The hunters?" She nodded.
Her species had been hunted for centuries. The crown was not just a mark of royalty. It was a target, a source of power others craved. To touch it, to possess it, was to control a weapon far older than most civilizations. Rook's eyes narrowed.
"Then we move. They'll try to trap us if we stay still."
"Tell me, what can you do?" Lyra paused. The truth was complicated. She could use the crown to influence energy, to protect herself, even to enhance others, but she had never tried it with humans. She had avoided contact because her people believed humans were reckless, too emotional, too violent, too unpredictable. Yet now the crown throbbed whenever Rook was near, responding to his courage. She realized with a sudden pang of fear that the crown had chosen him as more than a protector. "I can help," she said softly. "But I don't know if it will work." Rook studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, faintly, almost as if he trusted instinct more than reason. "We'll find out. Come on. We need to move before they locate us." Outside the cave, the valley was quiet but tense. Smoke drifted from distant fires, and shadows moved between the rocks. Lyra floated alongside Rook, small and careful. She stayed behind him, but the crown glowed faintly, reacting to his presence, as if linking them together. As they moved, Rook explained what he knew. "The humans here are few, scattered across ruins and wrecks. The hunters, whatever they are, followed reports of life signs. They don't know exactly what they're looking for, but anything unusual triggers them." Lyra nodded silently. She was learning quickly. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they also survived against odds that would destroy other species. Suddenly, a group of figures appeared at the edge of the rocks. 4 humanoids, wearing rough armor, their faces hidden. Rook stopped instantly and gestured for Lyra to remain behind. The figures spoke in harsh tones, words Lyra could not understand. Their gestures were threatening, weapons raised. Rook didn't hesitate. He charged forward, firing with precision, dodging their attacks. Lyra felt panic rise, but the crown pulsed. Instinctively, she reached out with her mind. A soft energy flowed from her crown into Rook, light enough to be unnoticed by the enemies, but strong enough to steady his movements. He dodged, rolled, fired again, and hit one of the attackers. The others faltered, confused by his speed and accuracy. Lyra's pulse quickened. This was the first time she had helped a human. The crown had reacted before, but now it acted with intent, amplifying his courage, his reflexes. When the skirmish ended, Rook looked at her with astonishment. "Did you?" She nodded, unsure what words could explain. Rook shook his head slowly. "I've never felt anything like that." They continued moving, keeping to shadows and valleys. Along the way, Lyra learned more about humans. She saw Mara, a sharp-eyed engineer, adjusting salvage tech. Talon, a scout, scouting the area with suspicion of everything non-human. Both were wary of her, their eyes sizing her up, questioning if she was a threat. Rook defended her quietly, never asking her to speak. He trusted instinct over judgment, and somehow that trust made the others pause, just long enough for Lyra to feel safe. That night, they camped in a hollow under jagged rocks. A small fire crackled, the only sound besides the wind. Lyra floated above the flames, unsure how to rest. She had survived countless dangers before, but something about humans made fear twist into fascination. Rook glanced at her. "You don't need to hide from us," he said. "We may not understand everything about you, but I do know one thing. If you die here, so do I." The weight of his words made her crown pulse warmly. She had never experienced loyalty so raw, so immediate. It was dangerous, but comforting. During the night, Lyra drifted in half-sleep. The crown whispered faintly, like it was alive in her dreams. It spoke in memories of her people, of wars and wisdom, of empires lost. But in the echoes, she sensed something new. Humans could survive what her kind could not. They could adapt, endure, and fight without strategy, relying on something her species had never fully understood: sheer stubbornness. Morning came with distant thunder. Lyra and Rook were already moving. They had to reach higher ground, a place where they could see the valley and plan their next steps. They climbed carefully, Lyra clinging to Rook's armor when the terrain became rough. The crown glowed faintly, as if guiding them. At the top they paused, overlooking a valley filled with smoke and movement. "They're looking for us," Rook said quietly. "And they have more ships coming. We need allies, or we won't survive the next wave."
Lyra's mind raced.
Humans had no knowledge of her full power. The crown was alive, yes, but to use it fully could attract attention beyond these hunters. And yet, she could not let Rook face them alone. "I can help," she said again, stronger this time. "I can make you faster, stronger, maybe smarter in the fight. But it will take energy. I do not know how much I can give." Rook looked at her, sizing her up. Then he smiled, faint and tired. "We'll take the risk. Better alive with danger than dead with safety." They moved down into the valley cautiously. Lyra kept close, and as the first scouts appeared, she released a small pulse of energy from her crown. Humans nearby felt their reflexes sharpen. Rook's accuracy improved almost unnaturally. The enemies hesitated, unprepared for the sudden efficiency of the humans. After the encounter, Mara and Talon stared at Lyra, suspicion mixed with awe.
What are you?"
Mara asked softly. Lyra did not answer immediately. The crown pulsed against her thoughts, urging caution. "I am someone who can help," she said finally. But I am small. I am weak. Alone, I cannot survive this world." Talon's eyes narrowed. "We survive or die with what we have." "Are you sure you can be trusted?" Rook stepped forward. "She saved me, and I trust her. That's enough for now." The group moved on. Lyra stayed close to Rook, sensing his every step. The crown hummed, responding not only to danger, but to Rook's presence, his decisions, his heart. As night fell again, the humans found shelter in the ruins of an old outpost. They set up barriers and watches. Lyra hovered in the corner, observing, learning. The crown glowed faintly in her sleep, reacting to the humans' emotions, absorbing fragments of their determination. Rook sat nearby, polishing his weapon. "You don't have to do this alone," he said quietly, almost to himself. Then he added, as if thinking aloud, "You don't have to be afraid. The crown pulsed. Lyra understood more clearly than ever that humans were dangerous and unpredictable, but they were also capable of courage she had never fully seen before. And somehow, the crown was learning from them, growing with them. Then, suddenly, the distant sky lit with a strange green light. Lyra's eyes widened. The hunters were not giving up. They had sent a new wave, faster and smarter.
Rook swore under his breath.
"We need to move. Now!" Lyra grabbed hold of the crown, feeling it respond with urgency. It was alive, and it wanted action. She nodded to Rook. Together they stepped outside, ready to face what was coming. The valley trembled as engines roared. Shadows moved between rocks, and the humans prepared for another fight. Lyra's crown pulsed brightly, for the first time merging its energy with a human not as a threat, but as a shield. She realized, with a mixture of fear and wonder, that she had never felt this before. Trust. Connection. Perhaps even something stronger than loyalty. And as the first enemy troops appeared, the humans charged forward, Rook at the front, Lyra guiding the subtle energy from the crown. They were small in number, but together they were beginning to feel unstoppable. The battle for survival had only just begun. The sun barely rose over the jagged horizon when Lyra and Rook reached the top of a rocky ridge. Smoke still twisted from the valley below, the smell of burnt metal and scorched earth thick in the air. Lyra's small body trembled, not from cold, but from the lingering echo of battle. The crown above her head pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat, responding to the fear and determination she felt, and to Rook, who now stood close, ready for anything. Rook surveyed the valley, eyes sharp. "They're regrouping," he said, voice low and steady. "More will come, and this time they won't hesitate. We need a plan, or we'll be trapped." Lyra floated beside him, tiny but fierce. "I can help," she whispered. Her voice carried no fear. The crown's glow brightened with her words. "I can make you stronger, faster. We might even be able to turn the hunters back." Rook's brow furrowed, and he glanced down at her. "And yourself? Will it hurt you?" She shook her head slowly. "I don't know, but I have to try. You are important." He didn't respond at first. His jaw tightened and he looked back at the valley. Then he nodded. "We do it together." They descended carefully, using the shadows of the rocks to hide. The humans from the outpost followed. Mara, Talon, and a few others who had stayed behind after the last skirmish. All of them were tense, their weapons ready, eyes scanning the hills. Lyra could feel their fear and determination, and the crown pulsed, absorbing it. A sudden noise made everyone freeze. From behind a ridge, a patrol of the alien hunters appeared. They moved silently, their long limbs perfect for stealth. Mara whispered, "They're too fast. They'll flank us if we stand here." Rook glanced at Lyra. "Do it," he said simply. Lyra closed her eyes and focused. The crown pulsed once, then twice, spreading a faint, warm energy toward Rook. His reflexes sharpened instantly. He ducked under a blast before it was fully fired, rolled to the side, and countered with perfect accuracy. Each movement was faster, sharper, better than any human could manage alone. The hunters hesitated. They were experienced, but something about this human warrior was different. Faster, smarter, unpredictable. The humans took advantage. Mara set up traps while Talon and the others flanked the hunters. Lyra stayed close to Rook, small and careful, keeping her crown's energy flowing. Each pulse made him sharper, steadier, almost untouchable. The fight was brutal but brief. The hunters were forced to retreat, confused and frustrated. Rook stood over the last fallen enemy, breathing hard, eyes wide. "Did you do that?" he asked, looking down at Lyra. She nodded. "I helped. That is all." Rook shook his head slowly. "That's not all. That was..."
Incredible. The humans gathered quickly, checking weapons and wounds.
Talon frowned at Lyra, suspicion still there but softened by what he had just witnessed. "Whatever you are," he said, "you just saved us." Lyra said nothing, only floated quietly above the group. The crown dimmed slightly, tired from the effort, but it had bonded with the humans in a way it never had before. She realized something new. The crown responded not just to danger, but to courage, hope, and trust. Rook moved closer. "We need to get higher ground," he said. "If more come, we'll have a chance to see them coming, maybe even fight smarter." They climbed the ridge, careful but quick. Lyra held tight to Rook's armor when the ground grew steep. She could feel the crown pulsing faster with each step, responding to the determination and courage of the human beside her. When they reached a narrow plateau, Lyra floated up to a higher ledge. She looked down and saw the valley stretching wide, dotted with smoke and movement. The alien hunters were regrouping, sending signals, preparing for another strike. "They're not giving up," Rook said, voice tense. "We need a plan before they bring everything down on us." Lyra considered. The crown whispered in her mind, faint but insistent. It had energy left, but not enough for a large-scale attack. "I can enhance you again," she said. "But only for a short time. We must be careful." Rook's eyes narrowed. "We do what we must. Are you ready?" She nodded. Below them, the hunters advanced. Lyra sent a pulse of energy through the crown. Rook felt it instantly. His muscles were lighter, his reflexes faster, his senses sharper. He moved like a shadow, striking with precision, dodging attacks before they began. The humans around him responded too, sharper and quicker, as if they were moving in unison with him. The hunters hesitated again, unsure how to handle these humans. Their strikes were fast but controlled, unlike anything they had faced. Lyra's crown hummed, feeding off their fear and determination, amplifying the humans' instincts. After the fight, the humans gathered, breathing hard. Talon's suspicion had faded completely. "I don't know what's happening," he said, "but I trust you. Both of you?" Lyra felt warmth in her chest. For centuries she had avoided trust, avoided connection. Yet here it was, simple and strong. The crown pulsed gently, as if agreeing. Rook turned to her.
"You're more than you seem," he said, "and I'm glad you're here." Lyra's crown brightened slightly, responding to the words.
It had never felt this before, not with her own kind. Humans were different. Unpredictable, yes, but also capable of something her species had never fully understood: connection. They moved carefully down the ridge toward a small outpost. The place was abandoned but partially intact, with low walls and broken buildings that could serve as shelter. As they approached, they saw more signs of activity: tracks in the dirt, smoldering fires, and scattered weapons. Lyra's eyes widened. The hunters had been here recently. They had taken resources, destroyed anything useful, but left signs that could be traced. "We're not alone," Mara whispered. Rook nodded. "We're expected." "Stay alert." Inside the outpost, Lyra floated carefully, observing. Her crown pulsed gently, sensing danger and opportunity. The humans set up barricades and traps, preparing for the inevitable return of the hunters. As night fell, the wind picked up, carrying distant sounds of engines and movement. Lyra felt the crown stir nervously. The humans were brave, but the hunters would not give up. Not while the crown existed. Rook sat near the largest fire, polishing his weapon, eyes scanning the darkness. Lyra hovered beside him, crown glowing faintly. "They'll come," she said softly. Rook nodded. "I know."
But we'll be ready. They don't know humans like us.
Lyra studied him, small and fragile in appearance, but unyielding in spirit. The crown hummed with energy, stronger than ever before. It had chosen this human, and now it was learning from him, learning what humans were capable of. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the night. The ground trembled slightly. Lyra's crown flared. "They're close," she said. Rook sprang to his feet, weapon ready. "Get everyone ready? We face them together." The humans scrambled, checking weapons, reinforcing barricades, and whispering plans. Lyra stayed with Rook, tiny but determined, her crown glowing like a tiny sun. She realized something powerful. Humans fought not just with strength or skill, but with courage, stubbornness, and hope. The crown resonated with all of it, growing stronger. As the first alien scouts appeared on the horizon, Lyra felt a surge of energy through her crown. She focused, sending it into Rook. He moved faster than anyone could imagine, striking with perfect timing, dodging attacks that would have killed him. The humans followed his lead, coordinated in a way that felt almost impossible. The scouts retreated, confused by the humans' speed and precision. Lyra's crown dimmed slightly, exhausted but satisfied. She hovered above the group, small and vulnerable but full of newfound strength. Rook looked at her, eyes wide with awe. "I don't know what you are," he said quietly, "but I don't want to fight without you." Lyra felt a warmth she had never felt before. The crown pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. She had always been alone, the last of her kind, bound to a legacy she barely understood. But now, with these humans, she felt something new, belonging. And as the wind howled through the outpost, carrying the distant sounds of approaching enemies, Lyra and Rook stood together, ready for whatever came next. The crown pulsed softly, as if agreeing. They would face the hunters, and the humans would survive. The battle for survival had only begun. But for the first time in centuries, Lyra did not feel fear. She felt hope. The wind carried the smell of burning metal across the valley as Lyra and Rook moved quickly through the ruins of the old outpost. Shadows stretched long under the pale light of the distant sun, and every step felt dangerous. Lyra stayed close to Rook, floating beside him, small and fragile, but alert. The crown above her head pulsed softly, sensing danger before it arrived. Rook's eyes scanned the horizon. "They're coming faster this time," he said, voice low and tight. "I can feel it. We have to move before they surround us."
Lyra nodded. She had never been so close to another being like this.
The crown reacted to him in ways it never had before, as if it recognized his strength and determination. It hummed, sending warmth through her tiny body, and she realized that it had bonded with him in a way that was both strange and comforting. They moved through the broken buildings, careful not to make noise. The humans from the outpost followed, their weapons ready. Mara, Talon, and a few others whispered instructions to each other, preparing traps and barricades. The valley was alive with tension, the calm before the storm. Suddenly a distant roar echoed through the sky. Lyra froze. Bah! The alien hunters were coming. Not scouts this time. This was a full force, moving with precision and intent. She felt the crown pulse urgently, reacting to the threat. Rook crouched beside her. "Stay close," he said. "We have a chance, but only if we fight together."
Lyra focused, drawing energy from the crown.
It was tiring, but she had no choice. She had never used her power like this before, not for this long, not in this way. She sent a pulse of energy into Rook. Instantly, he moved with sharper reflexes, faster and stronger than any human should be able to. The hunters appeared over the ridge, their long limbs moving silently, weapons ready. The humans held their ground, waiting for the right moment. Lyra felt her heart beat faster. The crown hummed, resonating with the fear and courage around her. She had never felt so alive. The first hunters stepped forward, firing a beam of energy. Rook dodged, moving with impossible speed, firing back in a blur. The humans followed, coordinated in a way that seemed almost unnatural. Lyra's crown pulsed with each heartbeat, feeding energy into the humans, amplifying their courage and precision. The battle was fierce. The hunters were skilled and relentless, but the humans fought with determination and hope, guided by Rook and strengthened by Lyra. Mara set traps that slowed the enemies, while Talon and the others attacked from the flanks. Each move was calculated, each strike precise. Lyra hovered above, sending pulses of energy, feeling exhausted but determined. The crown had never worked like this before. It was responding to human courage, learning from it, growing stronger as the fight continued. She realized that humans were different from her people. They were chaotic, reckless, emotional, but they could adapt, survive, and fight in ways her species could not. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The hunters began to retreat, unable to overcome the humans' speed and coordination. And Rook stood at the center, eyes blazing, weapon raised. He looked down at Lyra, who floated beside him, crown glowing faintly. "We did it," he said, voice rough but steady. Lyra nodded, though her small body trembled from exhaustion. "For now," she whispered. The crown dimmed slightly, drained from the effort, but still alive. The humans gathered, checking each other for injuries. Talon looked at Lyra, suspicion mixed with awe. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but I don't think we would have survived without you." Lyra felt warmth in her chest. For centuries, she had avoided others, trusted no one. Yet here she felt something new. Connection, trust, perhaps even friendship. The crown pulsed softly, echoing the emotions she felt. Rook approached her. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll come back, and next time with more forces. We need to move." They packed what supplies they could carry and left the outpost. The valley stretched wide below them, scarred by battle, smoke rising from distant fires. Lyra stayed close to Rook, crown pulsing in rhythm with his determination. As they moved through the broken landscape, Lyra began to speak more. She told Rook about her people, their small but powerful civilization, the crown, and the hunters who had destroyed them. She did not explain everything, only what was necessary to survive. Rook listened quietly, nodding. He did not judge or question her too much, only trusted what she could offer. Lyra realized that humans had a kind of courage her people had never understood. They did not rely only on power or strategy. They relied on each other, on trust, and on sheer stubbornness. Night fell as they reached the edge of a cliff overlooking a wide river. The water reflected the stars above, calm and quiet. Lyra hovered near the edge, feeling the crown's warmth. She looked at Rook, who was sitting beside the humans, sharpening weapons and scanning the darkness. "They'll come again," Lyra said softly. Rook nodded. "And we'll be ready. You're not alone anymore. Neither of us is." The crown pulsed gently, responding to the trust and connection she felt. Lyra realized that it had never worked like this before. It had never bonded with another being in such a way. She had always been alone, the last of her kind, bound to a legacy she barely understood. But now, with these humans, she felt something new, belonging. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the river, reflecting the faint green glow of alien energy. Lyra stiffened. The hunters were returning, larger forces this time. She could feel the crown responding, reacting to the danger with urgency. Rook stood instantly, signaling the humans to prepare. "Hold your ground," he said. "We fight together." The hunters arrived, their long forms gliding over the water, weapons ready. The humans held their positions, weapons raised. Lyra sent pulses of energy from her crown, strengthening the humans, sharpening their reflexes and heightening their awareness. The battle was brutal and chaotic. The humans moved with coordination that surprised even themselves. Each movement was precise, each strike effective. Rook led from the front, enhanced by the crown, his courage inspiring the others. Mara and Talon flanked the hunters, striking with perfect timing. Lyra hovered above, exhausted but determined. She sent energy into the humans, feeling the crown's strain under the effort. But she did not stop. She could not. The humans depended on her, and she depended on them in return. Hours passed, though time felt distorted. The hunters began to falter, retreating under the humans' relentless assault. Rook stood at the center, weapon raised, eyes blazing. Lyra floated beside him, crown glowing faintly, exhausted but alive. The valley was silent once more, except for the soft whispers of wind. The humans gathered, checking each other for injuries, breathing hard. Talon looked at Lyra with a mix of awe and respect. "I don't understand what you are," he said, "but I trust you now."
You're one of us.
Lyra felt warmth in her chest. The crown pulsed softly, echoing the connection she felt. She realized that for the first time in centuries, she was not alone. She had humans beside her, and together they had survived. Rook approached her, eyes still bright from battle. "We're stronger together," he said, "and I'm glad you're here." Lyra nodded, small but fierce. She had survived countless dangers before, but this was different. She was no longer just the last crowned soul. She was part of something bigger, part of a team, part of a connection that could change everything. As night fell, the humans set up camp near the river. Lyra floated beside Rook, crown dim but steady. They had won today, but she knew the hunters would return. Stronger, faster, more determined. The crown pulsed softly, as if aware of the challenges ahead. Rook sat beside her, silent for a long moment. "We'll face them," he said finally. "Together." Lyra felt the warmth of the crown, the trust in Rook, and for the first time, a sense of hope. The hunters were powerful, and the battles would be dangerous, but they were ready. Together, human and crowned soul, they would face whatever came next. The stars above reflected in the river, calm and silent. Lyra hovered close, feeling the crown pulse with life and energy. She was not alone anymore, and as long as the humans fought beside her, she would survive. The valley was quiet, but Lyra knew the battle was far from over. The hunters would return. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of rest, feeling the warmth of connection, trust, and courage. And she knew that with humans beside her, the crown, and her own determination, they could survive whatever came next. The morning air was cold, sharp with the smell of burned metal and dust. Lyra hovered quietly beside Rook, as the humans from the outpost prepared for the day. Their bodies were sore, muscles aching from the battles, but their eyes were alert and sharp. The valley around them was scarred, littered with remnants of fighting, and the silence felt heavy, as if it were holding its breath. Rook moved among the group, checking weapons, encouraging the others, and scanning the horizon. He had survived battles before, but he had never faced opponents like these alien hunters. They were relentless, precise, and cruel, and each wave had tested the humans' courage and determination. Lyra felt her crown hum softly as she watched him. It was alive, responsive, and connected to him in ways she had never felt with another being. "They'll be back," she whispered, almost to herself.
"Bigger forces, smarter."
"They will not give up." Rook looked at her, eyes narrowing. "Then we make sure we are ready. Every one of us. No mistakes." Lyra nodded. She had seen humans adapt in ways her own species could not. They were reckless, emotional, but they could also be brilliant in moments of necessity. The crown pulsed faintly, sending her energy into the humans around her. Their reflexes sharpened, their movements became faster, and their senses more aware. It was subtle, but enough to make a difference. The humans moved through the valley, setting traps, reinforcing barricades, and preparing positions. Mara was adjusting salvaged energy weapons, her hands steady despite fatigue. Talon checked the perimeter, eyes constantly scanning for movement. Even the quiet ones, those who rarely spoke, moved with a tense awareness that told Lyra they had learned to trust her presence. Rook paused at the edge of a ridge, looking down at the valley. Smoke rose in thin spirals from distant fires, evidence of past attacks. The alien hunters had left signs of their presence, but they had also left trails that could be followed. "We have a chance," he said, voice low but steady. "If we can anticipate them, we can make the next wave count." Lyra's crown pulsed brighter, responding to his determination. "I can help," she said softly. "I can strengthen you all again, but it will tire me, and I cannot do it for too long." Rook glanced down at her, eyes wide with understanding. "Then we use it carefully, when it matters most." The first signs of movement appeared in the distance. Shadows shifted between the broken buildings and rocks, and a low hum filled the air, the sound of engines growing closer with every second. The humans tensed, gripping weapons, waiting. Lyra hovered near Rook, crown glowing faintly. She felt the pulse of fear and courage from the humans around her. This was the moment they had been preparing for. She focused, sending a steady wave of energy into the group. It was not overwhelming, but enough to sharpen reflexes, steady hands, and heighten awareness. The hunters arrived in force, larger than before. Their weapons glowed with alien energy, and their long limbs moved with inhuman precision. They spread across the valley surrounding the humans' positions, confident in their superior numbers. Rook stepped forward, signaling the humans to hold their ground. "We fight together," he said. "No one falls alone." The first hunter fired, and the battle began. Energy beams cut through the air, striking rocks and scorched earth. The humans moved with coordination, dodging attacks, returning fire, and using traps to slow the enemy. Lyra hovered above, sending pulses of energy into the humans, making them faster, stronger, and more precise. The hunters hesitated. They had expected humans to be weaker, slower, easy prey, but these humans moved with a speed and accuracy that was almost unnatural. Rook led them like a conductor, his movements amplified by the crown's energy. Each strike was deliberate, each dodge precise. Mara set off a trap that sent a wave of energy rolling toward a group of hunters. They stumbled, their formation breaking. Talon and the others attacked from the flanks, catching the enemies off guard. Lyra's crown pulsed with every heartbeat, feeding energy into the humans and reacting to their courage. The battle raged for hours. The humans were tireless, moving with determination and instinct. The crown strained under the effort, but Lyra refused to stop. Each pulse of energy was a risk to herself, but she had learned to trust the humans beside her. They had become more than allies. They were her connection to a world she had never truly known. Rook moved through the battlefield, unstoppable and precise. He dodged attacks that would have killed a normal human, striking back with incredible accuracy. The humans followed his lead, moving like one organism, coordinated and deadly. Lyra watched, feeling a mix of awe and fear. She had never seen such courage, such determination. Her crown pulsed in response, stronger and brighter than ever before. The hunters began to falter. Their confidence cracked as they realized that the humans were not only surviving, they were winning. They moved faster, dodged more effectively, and struck with precision that defied expectation. The crown's energy had amplified the humans, but it had also taught them something. It had taught them courage. Hours passed, though time seemed to stretch endlessly. The valley was filled with fire, smoke, and the sounds of battle. Lyra hovered above, exhausted but determined, sending pulses of energy to sustain the humans. The hunters retreated, unable to overcome the humans' combined strength and speed. When the last hunter fell or fled, the humans gathered, breathing hard, checking each other for injuries. Talon looked at Lyra, eyes wide with awe. "I don't understand what you are," he said softly, "but I trust you. You've saved us more than once." Lyra felt warmth in her chest. For centuries she had avoided connection, avoided trust. But now she felt something she had never known: belonging. The crown pulsed softly, echoing the emotions around her. She realized that it had never worked like this before. It had never responded to courage, hope, and connection in this way. Humans were different, and the crown had learned from them. Rook approached her, eyes bright but tired. "We've survived today," he said, "but they will come again." "We need to be ready," Lyra nodded. She had never faced such danger, nor had she ever felt such trust. The humans had become more than allies. They were family. The crown pulsed gently, as if acknowledging the bond. The humans began to move through the valley, setting up new positions and preparing for the inevitable return of the hunters. Lyra floated beside Rook, small but determined, her crown dim but steady. She had used much of its energy, but it remained alive. She felt the connection between herself and the humans, stronger than ever before. Night fell, and the valley was quiet, save for the distant sounds of movement in the shadows. Lyra hovered above the camp, crown glowing faintly, sensing every heartbeat and breath of the humans below. They were alive, together, and that was enough for now. Rook sat near the fire, sharpening his weapon, eyes scanning the darkness. "We've survived this wave," he said quietly, "but the next one will be worse. We need to be ready, all of us." Lyra hovered closer. "I will be with you," she said. "The crown will help us. We can survive together." Rook glanced at her, eyes softening. "I believe that. More than anything, I believe that." The humans settled into their positions for the night, exhausted but alert. Lyra floated beside Rook, small but full of determination. The crown pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, responding to the trust and courage around her. She realized that she had never known such hope before. Humans had shown her something new: connection, courage, and the will to survive against impossible odds. As the stars reflected in the quiet valley, Lyra understood that the battles were far from over. The hunters would return, and they would be stronger. But she also knew that with humans beside her, with trust and courage, they could survive anything. She rested briefly, small and fragile, but her spirit was unbroken. The crown pulsed softly, steady, and alive. Lyra had learned something more important than power or survival. Humans fought with heart, and that was a force no hunter could ever fully understand. Rook looked at her, small and glowing beside the fire. "We fight together," he said simply. Lyra felt warmth spread through her tiny body. She had never been alone before, but now she was not. The humans were her allies, her family, her connection to a world she had thought lost, and together they would face whatever came next. The hunters would return. But Lyra, Rook, and the humans would survive. Together, they were stronger than any enemy. The crown pulsed gently, alive and aware, and Lyra finally allowed herself to feel hope. For the first time in centuries, she felt not fear, but confidence. The humans had shown her that courage, determination, and connection could change everything. And as the valley lay quiet under the stars, she knew that they would be ready when the next wave came. The battle was not over, but they were prepared. And for the first time, Lyra understood that she was not just the last crowned soul. She was part of something greater. Together with humans, with trust, courage, and hope, they could face any danger. The night deepened, quiet and heavy, but Lyra hovered close to Rook, crown dim but steady. They had survived the impossible today, and tomorrow they would face whatever came next. The stars above the valley shone like distant fires, and Lyra, small but fierce, felt the heartbeat of the crown echo her own. The humans were beside her. They were alive, and together they were unstoppable. The valley was quiet now, but the air was thick with tension. Lyra hovered near Rook, her small body tense, crown glowing faintly, aware of every heartbeat and every shadow around them. The humans had rested, repaired their weapons, and reinforced their positions, but they knew the hunters would return, stronger this time, with more firepower and more cunning. Rook stood at the edge of the ridge, scanning the horizon. His eyes were sharp, his jaw tight. "They've learned from us," he said. "They'll come smarter, faster. We need to be ready." Lyra floated beside him, tiny and fragile, but full of determination. "Then we fight together," she whispered. The crown pulsed gently as if agreeing, sending warmth through her small body. It had grown stronger over the days, bonding with humans in a way it never had with her own people. The humans gathered around the fire, weapons ready. Mara checked the energy weapons carefully. Talon patrolled the perimeter, and the others prepared traps and defenses. They were tired, their bodies sore from days of battle, but their eyes were fierce. They had survived impossible odds before, and they would do it again. Lyra looked at Rook. "You are ready," she said. "Your courage, it is unlike anything I have ever felt. The crown reacts to you, to all of them. You make us stronger, all of us." Rook shook his head slightly. "We make each other stronger," he said. "That is what matters. Alone, none of us would survive. Together, we can face anything." Lyra's crown pulsed brighter at his words. It had never responded like this before, not to another being. It fed on courage, hope, and trust, and the humans had all of it in abundance. She realized that humans were unpredictable, yes, but their hearts were strong. and the crown resonated with that strength. The wind shifted, carrying the faint hum of engines and movement from far away. Lyra stiffened. The hunters were approaching, larger in number and more precise. She felt the crown's pulse quicken, reacting to their presence. Rook raised his hand. "Positions," he said. "We hold the line." The humans took their places, weapons raised, eyes focused. Lyra hovered above, sending pulses of energy to heighten reflexes, sharpen senses, and steady hearts. It was exhausting, but necessary. The crown was alive, responding to each heartbeat, each step, each breath of the humans below. The first wave of hunters appeared, moving with long, silent limbs, weapons glowing faintly. They spread across the valley, confident in their superior numbers. Lyra's crown pulsed urgently, warning the humans, strengthening them. Rook led the charge, moving faster than anyone could follow. He dodged attacks, fired back with perfect accuracy, and struck with a precision that seemed impossible. Mara and Talon followed, using traps and terrain to their advantage. The humans moved as one, coordinated, dangerous, alive. Lyra hovered close, sending steady energy into the humans. The crown pulsed, draining her strength, but she refused to stop. Each pulse made the humans stronger, sharper, faster, more aware. The hunters faltered, surprised by the humans' speed and coordination. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The battle raged across the valley, fire, smoke, and energy filling the air. Rook led his people with courage and strategy, guided by the crown's subtle energy. Mara set off traps, slowing the hunters, while Talon attacked from the flanks, striking with precision. The hunters began to retreat, confused and frustrated. They had not expected humans to survive, let alone fight so effectively. Lyra hovered above, exhausted but determined, sending pulses of energy to sustain the humans, her crown dimming slightly but still alive. Finally, the last hunter fell or fled. The humans gathered, breathing hard, checking each other for injuries. Talon looked at Lyra, awe mixed with respect. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but I trust you. You've saved us again." Lyra felt warmth spread through her tiny body. For centuries, she had avoided trust, avoided connection. But now, she felt something she had never known: belonging. The crown pulsed gently, echoing the trust and courage around her. Rook approached her, eyes bright despite exhaustion. "We've survived," he said, "but they will return. We must be ready for whatever comes next." Lyra nodded. "I will be with you. We are stronger together." The crown pulsed, responding to the connection she felt with Rook and the humans. It had learned from them, grown with them, and now it was alive in a new way. The humans spent the night reinforcing defenses, resting, and preparing for what they knew would come. Lyra hovered close to Rook, crown dim but steady. She had given much of her energy to the humans, but she had learned something more important than power. Humans fought not only with skill, but with heart. That heart could change everything. Morning arrived with pale light. The valley was quiet, but the humans knew it would not last. Scouts reported movement in the distance. The hunters were returning, stronger than ever. Rook gathered the humans. "We have a choice," he said. "We fight here and risk everything, or we take the fight to them." Lyra floated beside him. "We can fight together," she said. "The crown, it will help us. But we must act carefully." Rook nodded. "Then we go." "Ha! Ah, we fight not just to survive, but to end this." They moved quickly, taking higher ground to observe the enemy forces. Lyra's crown pulsed in response to the humans' courage, strengthening them as they prepared for battle. She realized that the crown had never been used like this before. It had bonded with humans, and in doing so, it had grown in ways she had never imagined. The hunters appeared below, massive in number, organized and ready. Rook signaled the humans, and they moved together, coordinated and precise. Lyra hovered above, crown glowing brightly, sending pulses of energy to each human, amplifying their courage, reflexes, and focus. The battle began. Energy beams lit the valley, explosions shattered the ground, and the humans moved with extraordinary speed and precision. Rook led from the front, his movements enhanced by Lyra's crown. Mara and Talon struck from the sides, traps slowing the hunters, while the others held their positions, firing and dodging with accuracy. The hunters faltered, unable to anticipate the human speed and coordination. Lyra sent stronger pulses, guiding the humans subtly, strengthening their hearts and bodies. The crown's energy intertwined with human courage, creating a force the hunters could not comprehend. Hours passed, though time seemed to stretch endlessly. The humans never faltered. Rook moved through the battlefield with determination, leading by example, each strike precise and powerful. Mara's traps worked perfectly, slowing the hunters, while Talon's attacks were fast and deadly. The humans fought not just with skill, but with heart, determination, and trust in each other. Lyra hovered above, exhausted but determined. Her crown pulsed steadily, feeding energy to the humans and guiding them. She realized something important. Humans were more than their size or strength. Their courage, hope, and willingness to protect each other made them unstoppable. The crown responded to these qualities, amplifying them beyond what she had ever seen. The hunters began to retreat, overwhelmed by the human strength and coordination. Rook stood at the center, weapon raised, eyes blazing. He looked down at Lyra, who hovered beside him, crown glowing faintly. "We've done it," he said, voice steady but filled with awe.
"They're retreating. For now."
Lyra nodded, exhausted but relieved. The crown pulsed gently, echoing the connection she felt with Rook and the humans. She had never felt trust like this, never known belonging. Humans had taught her courage, hope, and the power of connection. The humans gathered, checking each other for injuries. Talon looked at Lyra with respect. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but I trust you. You're one of us." Lyra felt warmth spread through her tiny body. For centuries she had been alone, the last of her kind, bound to a legacy she barely understood. Now she had humans beside her, fighting with her, trusting her. The crown pulsed softly, alive in a way it never had before. Rook approached her, eyes bright.
"We've survived," he said, "together."
"That's what matters." Lyra nodded.
"Together?" she echoed. The crown pulsed gently, in rhythm with her heartbeat, as if acknowledging the bond she had formed with the humans. The valley lay quiet beneath the stars. The humans had survived impossible odds, and they would face whatever came next with courage and determination. Lyra hovered beside Rook, small but strong, crown glowing faintly. She had learned that connection, courage, and trust were more powerful than any weapon. And as the humans rested and prepared for the next challenge, Lyra realized that she was no longer just the last crowned soul. She was part of something greater. Together, human and crowned soul, they would face any danger, survive any battle, and protect each other. The stars shone above, silent witnesses to the bond between Lyra, Rook, and the humans. They were not alone anymore, and together they were unstoppable.